We got this on the Post Millennial. Wanted FBI manhunt underway for armed Antifa suspect allegedly involved in the ambush shooting outside ICE detention center in Texas. Benjamin Hanil Song, 32 of Dallas, is wanted for attempted murder and is considered armed and dangerous. So we got somebody on the run.
Mm-hmm.
They say the FBI believes Song purchased 4 of the firearms connected to the premeditated attack, which was allegedly carried out by a North Texas Antifa cell. 10 heavily armed members of the cell have been arrested and charged with attempted murder and other crimes. Wow. On July 4th, local and federal officers were lured to the area outside an ICE facility in Alvarado, Texas, and found themselves fired upon by a group of heavily armed militants dressed in black military-style clothing, according to the criminal complaint. One officer was shot in the neck but survived. Authorities said the gunman fired approximately 20 to 30 rounds of ammo using AR-15 style rifles. So I got a question. Shot in the neck area from an AR-15. The presumption is that's going to be what? 223 or 5.56?
Yep.
And raised him because that's
seriously.
Yeah.
Because if you actually got in the neck with it, it's going to cavitate, isn't it?
Yeah.
It's going to vaporize a lot of your.
Yeah. He probably got nicked. You know, thankfully it was
wow.
on the level of the shot that Trump got because he was released. So it didn't get a significant amount of it didn't get him.
This is crazy.
I mean, your aortas are here. You know,
this guy is on the run. They say the FBI believes Song hid in the woods for roughly 24 hours after the ambush before escaping on foot. An FBI agent wrote in the court filing that Song's cell phone was traced near the scene of the crime beginning at 11:30 p.m. shortly after the attack and remained in the area through the day of July 5th. This guy laid and waited for a day. These people are not messing around. We had Yoram on the show on Monday, and he says, didn't we see this in the 2020 riots? People were shooting cops. And I said, no. While we did see cops get shot, this is militant. Mm-hmm. The stuff we saw in the 2020 riots was more wanton. There was an instance where that guy with a sniper rifle went up on the roof in Texas. Absolutely. This is now 2 instances of organized, strategized action. That is, these people were heavily armed. One guy hid for the ambush. They acted like routine protesters launching fireworks. And when the cops walked out, they unloaded with a rifle.
This is like, okay, they say there's sleeper cells in the United States potentially from all this illegal people coming in. Of course, they're not going to come out and be like, 9 of them be like, we are from Iran and we will take. No, they're going to go into a riot. They're gonna go into an Antifa protest. They're going to be the one with the gun, try and get all their other American protesters arrested. So it's like a double win for them. Not only do they get to go after the government and scare everybody, they get to screw over all these other protesters. I'm not saying this guy was an insurgent or anything. I'm just saying this kind of thing. It's gonna, like, you see one guy here, one guy here, one guy in that group. They could be foreign terrorists. I mean,
do we actually know? It says he's of Dallas, Texas. Do we actually know, or is this like Maryland man from El Salvador?
Song, so he's not. He probably hasn't been in the United States for 6 generations.
Right.
The guy's obviously got some Asian heritage, maybe Chinese. I don't know. Song Korean. Not that the first thing I thought was, oh great, is he a Chinese national? Sure. That's the first thing I thought.
Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm like, get this racist shit out of your head, dude. But where else?
What?
I had another piece I'm going to come up with in a minute.
Well, I mean, look, apparently this is the guy that was kind of like facilitating for everybody, and he's pretty well known among people that are on the left and people that follow the left. I guess Andy No was saying that he's had interactions with this guy as well. So look, this kind of stuff is just going to continue to escalate.
That's what I'm thinking.
Because they're getting away with it.
I'm like, okay, this story is already written. The story of reality of humanity. Like, we're just living a predestined thing where, oh, now Palantir is going to take over. They're going to have a super spy program domestically. They're going to have drones in the sky above us constantly for our own safety to make sure that we find all the illegal things. And that's the reality we're headed for in the next 30 years.
California's doing that with fireworks. There's a guy that's going to get a $100,000 fine because in the LA area because he was setting off fireworks and the police had drones just
It's $1,000 per firework. And even if it's at your house and you're not there, you still get charged with it because they passed a law that that social happenings at your dwelling are your responsibility, so you get fined for it too. Yeah. So if I go into my neighbor's vacation house and start blasting off fireworks for July 4th, he gets charged with it. I'm good. Whoa. It's fantastic. Yeah, it's
illegal doesn't mean good. So if we get this over obsessed system of legality where everyone's like, it can't happen because it's illegal.
Yes.
Hey, dude, this is getting nuts. ICE using Blackhawks to support the farm raids. Watch this video.
Protesters who have showed up to vehemently protest what's going on here. And just in the
it's
last
beautiful.
few minutes, Customs
Crop
and Border
dusting.
Patrol helicopter has entered the scene here. They are landing in the middle of the farm as we speak.
Is that a
does
Blackhawk?
appear
Yeah, it's a
that they
Blackhawk.
were not planning to be here as long as they have been. And so this helicopter that you're looking at here, guys, apparently just made a run over to Van Nuys Airport for some cases of water, which is what they're bringing into the scene here.
Okay,
So
okay.
there are a whole team of ICE
They're just
agents at the
hydrating
farm.
law
There are
enforcement.
other
Gunboat-
agents down there as
gunboat
well.
deployment.
I thought they were dispatching more units.
They're definitely showing force.
But they were doing that during the LA riots. They did bring a Blackhawk in and unload tactical gear with it. So we know that they are. And I just looked at the registration on that. That is a DHS helicopter. So.
This is. Let me just say, holy crap! What we're starting to see this past week, and I hope it's a blip. You know, when the 2020 riots happened, we said we hope it's a blip, and it got bad over that year and the next year with violence, and then we kind of had a lull where probably because Biden was in charge, Antifa wasn't going as hard as it did in 2020, but Trump is president now. He's enacting the will of the people, and we're on what, month 6, and we're not even. And now we've seen militant, strategic ambushes on law enforcement.
I don't see how this goes away. I think it escalates. I think it escalates to the point where we are forced to deploy the military and have military intervention. I mean, what is the incentive for them to slow down and stop right now? There's hardly any consequences.
We have this conversation like every other week almost, where we ask the question amongst ourselves, what is the logic behind a de-escalation?
It would only be to enhance stability, domestic stability, in case there's a global conflict and a war. Like the Russians in 1916, the Russian Revolution screwed the Russian empire out of World War I. They couldn't even fight in the war because there's domestic.
This is all about domestic stuff. I mean, I don't. This isn't really international.
I wish borders protected us, but it's all international at this point. This is not accidental. This is a global move. The culture war, they call it, is like they're using internet to seed communities of people to do uprisings. They're funding probably crypto being passed behind black channels.
It's all connected, man.
Yeah, it is. And I tell you, communism, fascism, global tyranny probably the most thing they would love at all to see the United States fall. Is to see this democracy kill itself. It would be the ultimate win for like you said, this experiment of freedom where we're all kind of legally equal. It's real new. It's tenuous at best. So that would be the one reason to de-escalate, is to maintain stability. But that doesn't necessarily mean in the long run that we would be stabilized.
There are a million reasons to de-escalate. There's an infinite number of reasons to de-escalate. The question is, what is the logic for a path that results in de-escalation? There isn't one.
Well, we could, off the top of my head, maybe not, but yeah, I like that question.
Hypothetically, Donald Trump crushes them and then stops. He goes in with a heavy hand and then they stop. But I think I don't know that Trump would go heavy enough. And like I said, the right is scared of being called a fascist or fascists. So they keep saying, oh, we better not. And it's like, okay, well, the reason why we're seeing this degree of violence is because when the far left came out with explosives, they didn't get arrested. And so the college kids and the people they're recruiting, they're like, look, if you come out and join us, you won't get arrested. It never happens. Okay? And so the next step is obviously guns.
Yep. I think you have to crack down on it because it's like a brush fire right now.
100%.
And it's multiple brush fires. And if you don't put them out, one of those can create a forest fire, which can destroy your entire ecosystem. And I saw that in 2020. I was like, why did not bring out the National Guard day 2 of those stupid riots? I'm like, why is this still happening? Why is 3 days have gone by and it hasn't been quelled? And they call it pacification. That's the word that the militant conquerors want to use about, like, we're just bringing peace and stability. We're pacifying the populace. Well, what does that mean? They're going in there and stomping it down with guns, swords.
Put them in jail.
I honestly, I wouldn't be surprised. I know it's probably cliche to see if we go down the Roman Republic route and the Republic, as we'd call it, crumbles and it becomes something else. I mean, we called it the Roman Empire after the fact, but I don't know that we would do that because people have an aversion to that.
Begging for a strong man like Caesar, that would be Trump, and then giving him massive authorities. Caesar took it, or they basically gave it to him. They acquiesced it to him.
In the event that, like, let's say within a year, this is 100 times worse. Trump's going to be granted emergency powers. He's going to Insurrection Act the entire
He
country.
should be impeached if it's 100 times worse. He's not doing his job.
Trump should be impeached if insurgent, leftist, violent terrorists are attacking the country.
We need a real president that would stop that from happening. I'm sorry. I kind of interrupted what you were saying. If a president were to let this get 100 times worse, they should not be our president. That's ineffectual leadership.
So you think they need to bring down? So how do you stop it from getting 100 times worse?
I'm kind of with you. I mean, I think
Iron
you have
Fist
to crack down. Like, you have to bring out heavy weapons.
No, you don't bring up
I never said anything about heavy weapons.
I'm talking about heavy weapons. Like, you scare the shit out of the people that are doing it, and they stop.
They should have one cop right there armed with a rifle
or a drone where the sniper bullets come from where you can't even see, kind of thing. So people are like, I just don't even want to go outside.
Only in the Ian. Only in the event the police are about to be killed.
Right.
Is my point. I'm saying they should all be arrested and charged as accomplices, so that the other people, these young people who join these riots, know. You can't be party to these things. We will punish you. You'll be punished. You will be arrested. But when I say it gets 100 times worse, I don't know that there's theoretically any reasonable thing Trump can do to prevent it from getting 100 times worse. If the far left organizes in a short period of time and decides to go out in the streets with rifles and start unloading on law enforcement, that's not something that we just predict is going to happen, unless you're suggesting Donald Trump begin a mass surveillance program of these people and then arrest them before it can happen.
It's not just these people. It'll be everybody. That's the problem with mass surveillance. And
my point was, what we are seeing here, some people are suggesting in the comments that these are cannabis growers, probably cartel linked, and that's why they're opening fire. If it does turn out cartel interests say this is now war and it is 100 times worse, meaning you are seeing rifle fire from the shrubs through the bushes at cops. Cops are in armored, APCs, they're taking fire. The military's coming in. If something like that were to happen, the American people would say, Donald Trump, we grant you the supreme authority to stop this. And let me just add one more thing. Let me ask you guys this question. Actually, let's do this. Let's start here.
I just saw your poll in the chat on YouTube.
My poll? All right. Let me launch this story from the New York Times, because this is a big component of it. Judge blocks Trump's birthright citizenship order in class action challenge.
Didn't we do that last week?
What?
Didn't they just have a finding about this like 2 weeks ago?
That the universal injunctions were stopped. But let's start here. What we are seeing right now is Donald Trump's agenda, the will of the people, and the response to the left. There's an institutional conflict happening where judges are trying to stop Trump and the people's agenda. And then you have in the streets, people are shooting at Donald Trump. They're shooting at Donald Trump's agenda, is what I mean to say. They're using guns against law enforcement to prevent the agenda from happening and targeting what we want, stopping what the American people have voted for. So right now, I want to ask you guys some questions, and so we can address how Trump responds to what's been going on. Let me just, for the sake of it, for clarity, people may be just joining this segment for the first time. We have just gotten within the past hour report and a video of a man opening fire on law enforcement in these raids northwest of LA. Monday, we had a man with a rifle ambush CBP officers shooting a cop. And Friday, an organized, militarized group ambushed police outside of an ICE facility. So with that being said, I have a question for you guys. What do you think would have happened if Abraham Lincoln said, after 7 states seceded from the Union, if he said, okay, I guess?
There would have been 2 countries, the North and the South, and then they would have went to war.
Why?
It probably would have been 10 times
Why?
the blood. Because 2 countries can't exist on this continent together alone.
What are you talking
Canada
about?
and the United States currently exist on this.
Because New England wants
Not for long.
Wants the Gulf of Mexico Sea access. They want
Ian,
Pacific Coast access.
Let's
They
just
want
try
access
this.
to
Let's try
Mexico.
this. Nick, what do you think would have happened if Abraham Lincoln said, okay, when the South seceded?
Well, I mean, it depends. Are we talking about what would Northern patriots have done? I mean, I don't think that we would have actually allowed that to happen.
In the event, Abraham Lincoln said, 7 states have seceded from the Union. Okay. What happens next?
Well, he wouldn't have been elected again. That's for damn
Probably.
sure.
Okay. All right. So 4 years later or 3 years later, I think, it would have been 4 years later because the secession happened before he got in. So he gets in. So before he even got into office, 7 states had seceded. He gets in and says, guys, we accept this. So he wouldn't get elected again. Let's just pause there. There will be, right? Phil, what do you think would happen?
I think that there would be foreign powers trying to influence the United States and the Confederate States. The stability of both of the countries would have been in question. I think that it's possible that the southern states might have actually aligned with like France or something like that.
Okay.
Probably Spain.
Right. And so over a long period of time, there'd be trade disputes and squabbles. Wow. Surprisingly, you know, wouldn't have happened? The Civil War.
Yeah.
Well, that's why I said a war would have broke out. I think
have.
it would have. It just would have been a global war with
Whatever. But the point is,
foreign powers funding both sides. It would have been
my question to you is, what would have
limited
happened
war.
if Abraham Lincoln decided not to engage the secession?
in the short term, there would have been a successful secession, and in the
And no
long
war.
term, there would have been a
Yeah,
horrible
I mean,
war.
we're not talking long term. My point I'm making is the Civil War started because Abraham Lincoln put his boot down and said, we are not going to let the Union dissolve. The South was content to sit where they were and said no. And Abraham Lincoln said, well, actually, Fort Sumter was Abraham Lincoln. It was basically the U.S. government saying, look, this is our base. You can't have it. And then the Battle of Bull Run was the North basically saying, we will fight you for this. And then after that, Abraham Lincoln said, we are going to amass troops and go down to the South. That's why Southerners call it the War of Northern Aggression. But I'll say this, slavery is evil. So Abraham Lincoln said the Union will not be dissolved. He did not issue the Emancipation Proclamation to free slaves. He did it to destabilize the South, as evidenced by the fact that Maryland and Delaware were allowed to keep their slaves. The point being, Abraham Lincoln said, I will suspend the Constitution where I see fit. I will arrest the Maryland legislature where I see fit. And he is called the greatest president in this country.
It was the Baltimore riot is why he suspended habeas corpus. There was this riot in Baltimore. It was too close to the Capitol. It was a big threat. So he's like, fuck it.
Yep, arrest them all. No matter what, don't care why, no evidence needed. You lock them up and you keep them there forever.
They were at war.
And he did.
Yeah.
This is before.
This
is the start of the war where he decided.
Are you sure?
Well, look it up.
Okay.
Because if it was mid-war, my point is the beginning of the war established territories. The U.S. government, Abraham Lincoln, basically said, we need a corridor between Pennsylvania and D.C., and Maryland is a slave state with Southern sympathies. So he arrested a third of the Maryland legislature because they were sympathetic to the South and a slave state, so that they would not rise against him. And he suspended habeas corpus in a corridor from Pennsylvania to D.C. so that they wouldn't be obstructed.
Yeah, you're right. It was the Baltimore riots of 1861, right at the beginning, considered the first bloodshed of the American Civil War. Huge riot broke out in Baltimore, and then they had a military clampdown.
And so my point is, the right is so afraid of being called fascists and that they don't enforce the law as it's written, let alone what Abraham Lincoln did.
Well, had Abraham Lincoln not done that, the United States would not be here today.
Agreed. And so my point is, all I'm saying is that Donald Trump should use the laws placed before him that within the constitutional powers that have already been adjudicated, the Insurrection Act, for instance, he just won on the National Guard case, last month, and shut down these extremists how he needs to so that we do not escalate to that point.
And my counter is, you are the process that you commit. So what we do, how we get there is going to dictate what we are when it's over with. But at the same time, Lincoln shut down habeas corpus and then brought it back. Like, you don't have, just because you do a horrible tyrannical thing or just a dangerously, powerfully tyrannical thing doesn't mean that that's always going to be how it is forever after that. Like,
right.
There can be moments of crackdown.
Right. So the way I look at it right now is there will come a time where a line is drawn. And we don't know what that line will be or when it will be or how or where. Abraham Lincoln had a choice. He could have said, hey, guys, I'm getting into office in a couple months, and these 7 states have declared secession. There was a period where for several months, they were just operating as if they were the Confederacy. Then Abraham Lincoln. So after Abraham Lincoln got elected, he was president-elect, they declared they were seceding out of fears that he would shut down slavery, which would damage their economy. The actual argument from Lincoln was, no, you can keep your slaves, just no new slaves anywhere else. That was still a threat to them because you had bleeding Kansas for 7 years where people were shooting each other over slaves, like John Brown. So they secede. Abraham Lincoln, a couple months later, gets in to office and then says, I'm not letting that happen. So Fort Sumter happens. I could be totally wrong about this, but I think it was Fort Sumter. No one actually died in the conflict. One person died due to an accident or something. It was like misfire. And then the Battle of Bull Run was bloody. And I believe it was after that Abraham Lincoln, because they were defeated, called upon to send like 15,000 troops or something like this. Whatever he ended up doing it, he called for troops to go quell the rebellion, which resulted in 4 more states seceding and joining the Confederacy, which I think included Virginia. I don't know I don't think Virginia seceded initially.
It did not.
Yeah. And then because of the actions of Lincoln basically saying, Constitution be damned, they went, holy crap, we don't want this. And then he said, don't care. I am going to do whatever it takes to preserve the Union and stop you.
You're asking where that line is, it seems like. I think the line is kind of obvious at this point, in my opinion anyway. As soon as you see a situation like this where somebody is opening fire and an ICE agent is actually killed, I think that's the line. I think once you cross that, I think the political pressure on Trump by itself is going to force him to act in a swift and strong manner, which is going to require the military. What more assets can DHS bring out on their own? I mean, at this point, they got to be close to tapped out. I mean, you can bring more manpower and stuff in, but at that point, if you're getting ICE agents and such killed, just look at the base. Look at what the base is going to do at that point. They're going to freak the hell out, and President Trump isn't going to have a choice. I think he's going to have to bring in the military.
If it's cartel stuff that got mentioned earlier, if it's actual cartel stuff, I mean, are they considered terrorist organizations at this point?
Yes.
You do like behind enemy lines.
Have you
military actions if that's the case?
Have you ever watched any of the cartel stuff from Mexico? Like what the cartels actually look like? It's not just
Not
like
recently.
it's not like the old like mobster movie stuff. Like they're rolling around with like actual full on
narco tanks.
Yeah,
and
they have
stuff?
kit. They've got like full on like 134 Gatling guns, M2 machine guns. They're all kitted up. They have rocket launchers. They have grenade launchers. It's far closer to what the U.S. fought in Afghanistan than it is to any kind of just police action stuff. So they would need legitimate military assets to actually engage.
Where do they get the weapons from?
Well, they have javelins now from Ukraine, so
Ukraine.
that's,
They got them from
and that's true. Yes, absolutely. The
Afghanistan,
Sinaloa cartel has javelins,
Long-range
from Ukraine.
missiles?
Yes. Well,
air.
surface to air. Yeah.
Yeah,
So-
like it's no joke. Like to take on the cartels would be an endeavor as similar to taking on the terrorists in the Middle East or in like Afghanistan. So
Yeah, it's not as mountainous in Mexico as it is in Afghanistan. I don't
there's
know
mountains.
the topography.
There's
that well.
mountains in like on the western side, and even still, like it doesn't matter. The topography isn't as important as it is the weaponry that they have.
Right, they're using like 2005 weapons, and we have 25 weapons.
So they're using drones, dude. They're using 25 weapons.
Thanks for checking out this clip from Timcast IRL. Make sure to watch the show live Monday through Friday at 8 p.m. Subscribe to this channel, and we will see you all there.